big news that's dropped. We are getting 3-team endgame content finally. And that is not just the anomaly arbitration, but it's in the modes that needed to clear for Jades, which is MOC, Apex Shadows, and Pure Fiction. In version 4.2, they will introduce Star Wars mode and additional Stellar Jades for the 3 modes, and I believe it's 100 extra for clearing. So in total, the modes gives 300 extra Jades per refresh. That's being 100 from MOC, another 100 from Pure Fiction, and another 100 from Apex Shadows. Now, what does this mean? It simply means that we need 3 teams now, and apparently these 3 modes are going to be a bit harder than MOC 12, Pure Fiction 4, and Anomaly Arbitration, not Anomaly, Apex Shadows. So what does this mean for players? We're gonna need 3 teams if you want 3 working teams if you want the 100 Stellar Jades. And it's just not 100, it's 300 total, 100 for each mode. Which got me thinking, with how the flagships work in this game, they're introducing new paths and such. With everything been going on, I kind of think you kind of do need at least one of these 3 teams on your team. I think their value is going a lot higher with the introduction of 3 teams. The 3 teams I'm talking about is Dot, Break, and the flagship teams. The reason why I think these 3 teams are much more valuable now is because they use their own dedicated supports. They're not heavy on the generals supports like the Sparkle, the Sunday, and to a certain extent the Trippies, right? You got dedicated supports like the Sirene, the Yaguang, mostly for Elation, but Yaguang can work with some other DPSs. And as for Dot, obviously you're going to use Dot characters like Kafka, Black Swan, and Hysolence together. And you got Break, which is obviously Firefly, Dahlia, Fugue, and then your HMC or your Rame. And majority of the teams in the game currently don't really use those characters. So having at least one of those 3 is going to help your endgame out a lot, because we can probably make do with 2 teams, and have a majority of the dedicated supports onto that team, for example the Sparkler and the Archer, right? Now with the 3 team content, I think you can definitely get away with using 3 teams while having the Dot, Break, or the Remembrance flagship or Elation flagship. But it is definitely harder to make a team. At the very least, making it hard to make 3 teams, very good, solid 3 teams. If your generous supports are being used on the best partners in a sense, like the Sparkle and the Archer, right? Sparkle can work with every other DPS, but you really want to use Sparkle with Archer, for that example. Okay. Now, with the Remembrance flagship, you get the Caster's team, which doesn't really need any of the general supports because the team consists of Caster's, Evernight, Cyrene, and Hyacinth. Now, Hyacinth and Cyrene, they're obviously dedicated supports for a lot of teams too, but it's more so for the Remembrance. And since Huohuo was given out for free and there's a free DHPT, there's a lot more leeway towards, and there's a lot of cases where the Elation flagship obviously wants Huohuo more, right? And then your Archer team wanting DHPT, so you can see that. And the Break team doesn't really need a support. If you do need support, you got Link Shot, right, which works best. Alright, let me just give you a quick example of what I mean. For example, Dot. The only thing Dot wants is either DHPT or Huohuo. If you use DHPT, Huohuo is going to be available. If you use Huohuo, DHPT is going to be available. As for Break support only really needs Ningxia as a healer, but usually Break teams go sustainers anyways. It's just easier and you feel more comfortable with sustain. Obviously, Ningxia is a support that you're Instead, it's just a thing that you're gonna use or break. So your DHPT, your Hyacinth, your Ho is obviously not gonna be used. Now, for the teams like Remembrance, it all depends on what kind of teams you want to use with Siren, right? Obviously, if you Siren with Finite, Siren is not gonna be usable with casters. But that's okay because one of your teams is either break or dot, and when you have break or dot, right, the amount of access characters that you have for your next team is pretty much untouched. So if you're running you have an Astro team, you can definitely stamp in the Trippy, the Sunday, and the Ho, and if you do that, 2 out of your 3 teams will still have the Hyacinth, the DSPT available to them, right? Or the free Archer, you can use the free Sparkle, and then you can use the free DSPT, and then you can just use the RMC. That's a team. And a majority of your team members, like the Siren, the Trippy, the Sunday, they're all available still. So just having the dot, break, and any of the flagships from version 3 or version 4 currently with the final team drastically improves your chances to make 3 amazing teams for the endgame, because a majority of these teams use dedicated supports like the Sarija, the Fugue, the Dahlia, the RMC sometimes, but not always, and then the Siren and the Yaguan. And each of them can use different sustains, right? Like the Hyacinth, the DHPT, and the Ho. If you use it in your Aglaya team, most likely or not, you're either using Sunday, Tribi, Siren 100%, and Hyacinth or DHPT. So the pick and choose will always leave you with something else, right? So something in my reasoning is having at least one of the above mentioned teams drastically helps you with it. Now let's say if you don't have anything and you have like hybrid carriers only, mostly like Asphodel, the Herda, and Archer, it's going to be infinitely harder to make a team out of it because your general supports are usually going to be Sparkle, Sunday, right, and Sarija, and it's going to be infinitely harder to spread out these supports for them. This is going to be definitely harder for players that have been playing it for only around 1.5 year, probably. But if you're a day 1 player or going into like over 2 years, I do think we have a fair shot at making 3 solid teams. However, there are definitely cases that I can't ignore where probably people just only pull for 2 teams for the longest time because you don't want to, they don't really need a 3rd team. And I get that, and it's reasonable. And if someone who has played over 3 years who doesn't want to do king, so just like on army opportunity, just focusing on your 2 teams, that's also okay. Yeah. Anyways, that's all gonna be it for me. Let me know down in the comments on what you think of the future of HSR. I personally think 3 team content is extremely welcome. I am excited for version 4.3. I'll see you guys later.